it is. I'm going to wait for some folks to come on in, and we're going to have a little discussion around Lilith and dark matter energy. And before I get started, I wanted to make some announcements, and just to say, like, if this topic around dark matter energy basically entices you in any way, definitely check out the offering I'm offering on Patreon currently called Black Diamond Healing, where we're going to be excavating the nature of dark matter energy in our time together. And this includes once a month consulting calls, chats for us to connect and to go really deep with the shadow integration element. We're not hiding the shadow. We are embracing and embodying the fullness of who we are. Okay. So I wanted to discuss dark matter energy and Lilith. Okay. So in the chat, if y'all, for folks who are coming in, feel free to just let me know whatever your assumptions are about Lilith. And I'd love to see those uplifted, because I'd love to know, what have you learned about Lilith? What have you heard about Lilith? What is, how does this resonate with you? Hello, Lulu. So yeah, hi, Millie. Good to see y'all. Happy Wednesday. This is a great day to talk about it. This Wednesdays represent the day of the crossroads. You know, it's that middle time, that liminal space. And this is a really great day or frequency to uplift Lilith, because she is a liminal space. She is the source of a lot of creation stories. And she's also the scapegoat. She is she's the, put everything bad, blame everything on her kind of thing. She's wild. She's out of control. She needs to calm down. She needs to go put some clothes on. She needs to stop doing black magic. She needs to, like, it goes on and on, right? All the things, creating demons, eating babies, all that stuff. All right. So we're going to get into it. Like, how does this connect with dark matter energy? Before I do that, I'm going to just uplift some comments that I'm seeing. Okay. So Lulu says, people have different experiences of Lilith. Yes, you might have a different experience with her at different stages in your life. You might go through a stage where you completely repress her. You might go through a stage where you take Lilith out and you're like, look, I'm in my dark feminine. I'm in my Lilith. I'm owning it. Then you might have like a middle path. You might go through like this saintly path where you're like looking towards the light and cleansing yourself of all impurities, which is not something that just happens in Christianity and Islam and all that. That also is very, very prevalent in the new age, right? The new age. Okay. So let's see what else we got going on. Okay. So Millie says, I know very little about Lilith, but I'm drawn to beautiful goddess power. Yes. Well, then you know a lot about Lilith. If you're drawn to goddess power, like, Lilith resides within you. So Lilith is the story of the first woman. Let's start there. Lilith is the story of the first woman on this planet. There's inconsistencies related to this story. Okay. I'm going to discuss that, but let's just keep that in mind. So in a lot of ways, she's the source, okay? And in other ways, she is the scapegoat, all right? You put a lot on Lilith. A lot of baggage has gotten put on Lilith. All right, so let's see. Happy Wednesday, Lulu. Okay, so far what you've heard is the dark femme, embracing the fullness of oneself, good and bad. Yes. Oh, awesome. Great. Yes. Thank you for being here, Millie. Hi, Robert. Good to see you. Hi, Mamad. Okay, you're drawn to dark feminine energy, Millie says. All right, let's see what some other comments are. So for folks who are tuning in, I'm just asking, like, what do you know about Lilith? Like, just, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between, all that stuff. So Sacred Heart Goddess says Lilith represents the dark feminine, rebellion, primal instincts, and refusing to conform. Yes, yes. Okay, so Lulu says astrology rise. My Lilith is in Aquarius, dark moon in Scorpio. And Virgo for asteroid. Yes, look, you got it down. You're like, look, I know there's more than one Lilith aspect in astrology. I got them all down. This is funny. I was actually just going through this with a client this morning. We were tapping into Lilith, and then I just got that energy. I'm like, I need to keep it going. We need to keep the Lilith energy going. She wants to be heard and expressed, and I am not repressing her. I'm like, look, let's go. Okay. All right. My Lilith placement. So Millie says my Lilith placement is in Scorpio, and I feel it's important with Moon in Scorpio coming up. I believe Lilith is in Scorpio until, is that so? Is that so? Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because I meant to look it up too, Millie. I was like, I wonder what's going on with Lilith, because I can feel the energy really palpable. Okay. All right. And then thank you, Robert. Thank you. Okay. So Lulu says definitely drawn to both light and dark. And then Lulu says, I love when women embrace their sensuality and creativity. Yes. And then I've toned down my dark feminine to embrace her more. Okay, cool. Thank y'all for sharing. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So in this discussion, we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of Lilith. I'm going to give y'all like the Cliff's notes of like what is usually shared online, just for folks who may not really know much about her story. For folks who are tuning in, feel free to add different things, and then I'll uplift them as well. And then we're going to discuss the cosmic consciousness of Lilith, the back end. So a lot of what we see around Lilith is kind of like what you're going to see in a Google search, okay? But as we know, as spiritual seekers, we must dig beneath the surface, right? We must see beyond different veils of illusion. Sometimes what we'll find is in the false matrix simulation, they'll put a very specific symbol for us to look at, and our seeing eyes will see one thing, but there's a deeper meaning in the symbol. So we're going to get at the deeper meaning of the symbol of Lilith, okay? So, let's start with what people typically know. So like if we were to go into the Abrahamic religions, right, they would say that Lilith and Adam were created at the same time. They were created as equals, okay? But Lilith basically got too big for her britches and was wanting to do too much. She did not want to have sex laying down like on the bottom. She wanted to be on top, okay? And that was a problem. Because it's for Adam, because it's like, well, you're not my equal though. But it's like, yeah, I am your equal because we were made at the same time, or the same God created us. Like, why not? Okay. But Adam had a problem with that. Lilith got cast out, right, of the Garden of Eden. And then as the story goes, she wreaked havoc. She became the mother of all demons. She started eating babies. She did a whole bunch of others. She did, I mean, every terrible thing in the book, you're going to find Lilith attached to it, okay? So that's the way the story goes. And interestingly enough, there's a similar story as it relates to Sophia in Gnosticism. So there's this like light side of Sophia that's way more like, I'm the cosmic mother, like I am the mother of all wisdom, that kind of thing. But then there's also a very degraded element to Sophia where she becomes something known as Achamoth, and she's disgraced. She actually created the demiurge, also now known today as the archons, okay? And because she basically got too big for her britches, because Sophia wanted to create, right? So she created the demiurge, and basically she got shunned out of something known as the pleroma, which is basically the heavens. And so she got cast out, and she became Achamoth and basically a succubus, a demon, all this stuff. But the story remains the same. Here is a woman at the beginning of time, quote unquote, who created, or who wanted to be a creator, or who wanted to somehow take charge, and was very much punished and cast out for that, and was the cause of something very negative. So in the case of Lilith, she was the mother of demons. She created demons. Anytime an Abrahamic religion speaks of something that's demonic, and they speak about it in a negative way, it's another way of kind of I guess, scapegoating Lilith. Okay, so there's that aspect. Now, if we go to Sophia in the Gnostic religions, right? So she created the demiurge. Her creations created the archons, right? Once again, look, here goes a woman messing stuff up. She needs to be put in a corner, okay? And now when we see problems happening, that's that Sophia over there. She created them, okay? So we have this really heavy responsibility with both Sophia and Lilith. Like they were there at the beginning, but some mistake that they made, quote unquote, basically cast them out. And now they're still the source of suffering even till this day. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so these comments are interesting. It's because we're tapping into that dark feminine, okay? Um, so Purple Blue says, thanks for the live. She's been really powerful considering everything she's been through. When I first got initiated, I got traumatized, but it gave me a lot of power after. Okay, so a little later, I'm going to share some different ways to connect with Lilith, not even as an initiatory, because I know a lot of folks may have already connected with her in some way, but I'm going to share some tips that you can do to like reintroduce yourself to Lilith, maybe from a different angle, outside of a lot of the conditioning and the religious programming. And the religious programming has really been done across the board, across all different faiths and all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's the first version, that Lilith and Adam were equal. Okay, and Lilith didn't want to play second fiddle to Adam, and then Eve was created out of Adam's rib. Now, a really great movie, old school movie. I love to give a movie analogy because it's archetypes. You know, movies play around with archetypes and imagery, and sometimes the symbolism in a movie, if you've seen it, it will speak way more than my words can say. So that's why I like to give symbolism in the media, because it is that powerful. So to drive the point home of the archetype with the Adam, Eve kind of Stepford Wives. Okay, so I like the classics. So I know they made one like in the 90s or early 2000s or something like that, but I'm gonna say, you know, if you haven't watched it or if you're curious, try the 70s or the 60s. I think it was like in the 60s, maybe early 70s. And basically in that movie, this couple moves into a corporate town, and it's male driven. And basically the husband starts going to these secret male meetings. And what's basically happening is there's this huge conspiracy to turn the wives into clones. So to replace each wife with a clone. And the men are all in on it. And, you know, the wives, they come there and then they're really bored. And they're like, why are all these women, like, why do they just love housekeeping so much? Why do they just love cooking so much? Like, they're so passionate about it. Like, they're passionate about vacuuming. And it's like, what's wrong with them? Like, what happened? And so, like, even the women that are there, they try to get the Stepford wives together, as they're called, to, like, get them to be empowered. And then the Stepford wives are like, what are you talking about? We love it. We love our husband. Like, you know, so it's that energy, because literally in that movie, the men are replacing their wives with an upgraded version. In their minds, an upgraded version. And upgraded to them is more of like a cloned sort of thing. So the DNA has been tampered with a bit, right? But they still want the women to look like the original. The original would be the Lilith. So the women in this movie, for folks who have seen Stepford Wives, the protagonists of that movie, they would be the Lilith, and then they get turned into Eve towards the end of the movie. So that would be an example of Lilith playing out within the like media, like popular media. And I'll give y'all one more example, which is probably even more famous than the Stepford Wives, which would be Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby is another kind of like a Lilith story, but from another aspect. And by the way, created by the same, I don't know if it was by the same director or the same writer, but if you look it up, like, and you look at kind of like his belief system, it's very interesting. He was very big into the occult, okay? So he knew what he was doing, utilizing the symbolism of Lilith for sure. But in Rosemary's Baby, Basically, Rosemary is giving birth to a child. Her husband sells her out to a cult, basically, so that she could give birth to the devil. So this is kind of playing on the whole mother of demons kind of thing. In Rosemary's Baby, they utilize the imagery for the mother of demons, and two different aspects, but it's still that same thing of like betrayal of the feminine through the masculine, okay, and through like deception, all that kind of stuff. The Lilith wound, and we all have a Lilith wound, whether we're male, we identify as any sort of gender. You're gonna have like some kind of a Lilith wound, okay, and some people's are gonna be more prominent than the others, okay. But there is another side to Lilith to think about, which is what if, just what if, Lilith and Adam were not created at the same time? How does that change the story? If the Abrahamic religions are saying that Lilith and Adam were created at the same time, but Lilith was still expected to be submissive to Adam because that's the woman's place, that's one frequency. But what if there's a frequency of Lilith's DNA created Adam? How does that shift things? Okay. And why might I say that? Because a lot of folks may have heard about this concept of parthenogenesis, this idea that at some point in time, there wasn't even a male female. There were self-seeding, self-creating females, I guess you would say, through something known as parthenogenesis. This is documented. This is something that did occur on this earth, was something called parthenogenesis, where the feminine was able to intend to create, intend to bring life into this world, and through their intent alone, it was able to occur. At some point that stopped, and that's kind of around when we're getting into the Lilith story. The Lilith story was seeded as a way to explain why that stopped, why parthenogenesis stopped being a thing. Why did it all of a sudden become a thing for two partners to come together to create life? Okay. That was not always the case. I know we have a lot of different things coming up into the media where we're talking about what's quote unquote right or wrong as it relates to sexuality and bringing life in. But we do it under the assumption that the way things are currently is natural. It's always been that way. What if it hasn't? What if this is the new normal, but there was another way creation and manifestation happened prior to the time of Lilith? And that's where dark matter energy comes in. So I'm going to start getting into that, but I'm just going to check out the comments and see if there's anything more to uplift. Yes, I love 70s movies too. You remember the Stepford Wives? Yes, Purple Blue says, I watched it years ago and it left a mark. It was another reminder how I don't like to be controlled, which makes more sense now with our ascension and the dark matrix control. Yes. Okay, and then Pam Anderson, so Millie says Anderson's look at the Met Gala was compared to, Mia Farrow's look in that movie. Oh, I gotta check that out because they be planning all that. Like there's a whole sort of thing set up with that. So I don't know what the theme was or whatever, but I'm sure it was a foretelling of things to come. Okay. Okay, Purple Blue says, I truly believe in that feminine creation. A quote from Thoth saying he was created from the mouth of Sekhmet, which goes into all of these divine feminines and archetypes before the dark took over. Yes, and we talk a lot about Thoth, but what about Seshat? Seshat was the creator of writing. She was a goddess creator of writing who was also like ruled over cannabis too. But she was a writer. Like she created writing. How did Thoth? Where's Seshat? Why isn't she more of a thing? So there is this gatekeeper energy that comes into play with Lilith that we're going to describe. Yeah, so there's this gatekeeper energy that comes in. So, all right, let's get into the dark matter. All right, let's get into dark matter energy. So, how is this connected to Lilith? So, first of all, is dark evil? I'm curious. What do y'all think? Let's just be honest. Like, is there a part of you, are you comfortable with the dark? Or are there parts of you that feels a little weirded out by the dark? What does dark mean to you? Maybe that's a better question. What does dark mean to you? And then what does black mean to you? Like, and be honest, like, and let me just start off with myself. So I've definitely been on different paths in my I've been a spiritual seeker and been on the path for a very, very long time, at probably a lot longer than is considered normal because of, like, my upbringing and all that sort of stuff. But I've had to deal with a lot of conditioning and programming as it relates